Tuned in, now we're ready to share stories of melodies that fill the air. From rock and roll to soul and everything in between, we'll take you on a journey, it's a sonic dream. Welcome to the Melody Podcast, where music comes alive. Discover the history and the songs that will make you thrive. From catchy hooks to heartfelt lyrics, we've got it all. Join us on this melodic ride, we'll have a ball.
The 1970s was a decade of diverse and innovative music, with genres such as glam rock, disco, punk, new wave, funk, and more. Some of the greatest hits of the 1970s are Staying Alive by the Bee Gees, a disco anthem that was featured in the movie Saturday Night Fever and became one of the best-selling singles of all time. Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen, a rock opera masterpiece that combined elements of hard rock, ballad, opera, and pop, and topped the charts in several countries. Hotel California by the Eagles, a soft rock classic that explored the dark side of the American dream and showcased the band's harmonies and guitar skills. Imagine by John Lennon, a powerful song that expressed his vision in peace and love and became his signature song after his death. I Will Survive by Gloria Gaynor, a disco hit that became an anthem of empowerment for women and the LGBTQ community. These are just some of the examples of the amazing songs that the 1970s produced. Punk music was a cultural phenomenon that emerged in the 70s. As a reaction to the mainstream music industry, the political and economic turmoil, and the social conformity of the time, punk music challenged the norms and conventions of music, fashion, art, and politics, and expressed the anger, frustration, and rebellion of the youth. Punk music had a significant impact on various aspects of society. It introduced a new style of rock music that was raw, fast, and loud. Punk music influenced many genres that followed, such as new wave, post-punk, alternative rock, grunge, indie, and more. Punk music also inspired many musicians to form their own bands, labels, and scenes, and to experiment with different sounds and styles. Punk fashion was a way of self-expression and identity, as well as a statement of defiance and resistance. Punk fashion featured elements such as ripped clothing, safety pins, leather jackets, spikes, studs, chains, mohawks, dyed hair, and makeup. Punk fashion influenced many designers and trends such as Vivienne Westwood, Alexander McQueen, and the grunge and streetwear movements. Punk art was a form of creative expression that used various media such as college, graffiti posters, flyers, zines, comics, and films. Punk art often had a political or social message and used satire, irony, and shock value to challenge the status quo and provoke a reaction. Punk art influenced many artists and movements such as Banksy, Shepard Fairey, and the pop art and postmodernism movements. Punk politics often supported causes such as feminism, anti-racism, anti-war, animal rights, and environmentalism. Punk politics influenced many activists and movements such as Riot Girl, Rock Against Racism, Crass, and the Occupy movement. These are some of the ways that punk music impacted society in the 1970s and beyond. Punk music was more than just a genre of music. It was a culture, a philosophy, and a lifestyle that left a lasting legacy on the world. Now, the disco is a genre of dance music and subculture that emerged in the 70s from the United States urban nightlife scene. It is categorized by 4 on-the-floor beats, synchronized bass lines, string sections, brass and horns, electric piano, synthesizers, and electric rhythm guitars. Disco was popular among African Americans, Hispanic/Latino Americans, gay Americans, and Italian Americans, and influenced many genres and movements that followed, such as house, post punk, new wave, and hip hop. Some of the most famous disco artists are the Bee Gees, Donna Summer, Gloria Gaynor, Chick, and the Village People. So here are some of the most famous artists from the 1970s. Stevie Wonder, who was a soul, pop, and funk singer-songwriter and a multiple instrumentalist. He released 8 studio albums in the 1970s, with 5 songs reaching number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100 chart. He also won 12 Grammy Awards in this decade. Led Zeppelin, who was a hard rock, blues rock, and heavy metal band. They released 6 studio albums in the 70s, with 4 of them reaching number 1 on the Billboard 200 chart. They also sold over 100 million records in the US and influenced many genres and bands that followed. Elton John, who was a rock, pop, and glam rock singer-songwriter and pianist. He released 12 studio albums in the 70s, with 6 of them reaching number 1 on the Billboard 200 chart. He also had 6 number 1 singles on the Billboard Hot 100 chart and was nominated for 9 Grammy Awards in that decade. Pink Floyd, who was a progressive rock, art rock, and psychedelic rock band. They released 7 studio albums in the 70s, with 3 of them reaching number 1 on the Billboard 200 chart. They also have one of the best-selling albums of all time, The Dark Side of the Moon, which sold over 45 million copies worldwide and stayed on the chart for 741 weeks. Donna Summer, who was a disco and pop singer-songwriter. She released 9 studio albums in the 70s, with 3 of them reaching number 1 on the Billboard 200 chart. She also had 4 number 1 singles on the Billboard 100 chart and was known as the Queen of Disco. The 1970s was a transformative era in music and culture. It was a decade that witnessed the rise of counterculture movements, the exploration of mind-altering substances, and the evolution of rock music. Among the various elements that defined this era, one notable presence was the use of cannabis. Let's dive into the 5 rock bands of the 70s known for embracing cannabis culture and explore how this influenced their music and lifestyle. Led Zeppelin stands as one of the most iconic, influential rock bands of the 70s, led by Robert Plant, Jimmy Page, John Paul Jones, and John Bonham. They conquered music world with their hard-hitting sound and innovative compositions. But beyond their musical prowess, Led Zeppelin was also known for their affinity for cannabis. Cannabis was deeply integrated in Led Zeppelin's creative process. Many of the legendary songs and albums were created in the haze of Mary Jane. For instance, Dazed and Confused, an iconic track, is a testament to the band's cannabis-infused inspiration. The band's love for weed was not limited to the studio. It extended to their wild lifestyle. Led Zeppelin, notorious hotel escapades in Los Angeles, were legendary, fueled by cannabis and rock and roll spirit that knew no boundaries. These stories have become an integral part of rock folklore. The Grateful Dead, often associated with the jam band movement, were pioneers of rock in the 70s. Their music was not just about performances. It was a communicative experience that transcended boundaries. Central to this experience was the presence of cannabis. The Grateful Dead's philosophy revolved around sharing their music freely, and cannabis played a role in fostering a sense of community among their devoted fan base, known as the Deadheads. Their songs often served as the backdrop for community smoking sessions, creating a unique bond among the fans. Specific songs and performances like Friend of the Devil and the historic Europe 72 tour bear witness to the band's deep connection to cannabis. Iconic venues like the Fillmore West in San Francisco became identical with the band's music and cannabis culture. Pink Floyd's experimental approach to music made them one of the most influential bands of the 70s. Albums like The Dark Side of the Moon and Wish You Were Here redefined the boundaries of rock music. It's no secret that cannabis and other psychedelics played a significant role in their musical journey. Cannabis influenced Pink Floyd's music both lyrically and sonically. The album Dark Side of the Moon is a prime example of their cannabis inspired creativity, as it takes listeners on a mind bending journey. The band's live shows were also renowned for their stunning visual artwork and stage productions, often incorporating cannabis influenced themes. These elements added an immersive dimension to their performances. The Rolling Stones were the rock and roll rebellion through the 70s. Their embodied image of rock stars who lived a life on the edge. Cannabis was a constant companion on their journey. The band's rebellious image was closely tied to their association with cannabis, which sometimes led to drug related arrests. Cannabis played a significant role in shaping their music, from their bluesy riffs to the rebellious lyrics that captured the spirit of the era. Notable incidents such as the infamous Redlands drug bust further cemented their status as cannabis advocates and rock outlaws. The Stones' music included classics like Brown Sugar and Angie, which carries the unmistakable influence of their Mary Jane infused experiences. Black Sabbath emerged as pioneers of heavy metal in the 70s. Their music was characterized by its dark and heavy sound, and cannabis played a crucial role in shaping this distinctive style. Cannabis related themes were prominent in Black Sabbath's lyrics, with the song Sweet Leaf being a prime example. The track pays homage to the herb that fueled their creative fire, adding a darker edge to their music. The 1970s was a time of musical exploration and cultural transformation. Cannabis, often referred to as Mary Jane or simply just weed, played a significant role in shaping the music and lifestyles of many iconic rock bands from the era. Led Zeppelin, The Grateful Dead, Pink Floyd, The Rolling Stones, and Black Sabbath all left an incredible mark on 70s rock music, and their embrace of cannabis culture was part of their legend. Each of these bands brought a unique perspective to the intersection of cannabis and rock music. Led Zeppelin's wild studio sessions and on the road adventures were fueled by the green herb, while the Grateful Dead's music fostered a sense of community among their fans. Pink Floyd's sonic experiments and visual extravaganzas often drew inspiration from mind altering substances, and the Rolling Stones embodied the rebellious spirit of the era, both on and off stage. Black Sabbath, with their heavy dark sound, found a musical voice deeply entwined with cannabis. And cannabis is still illegal in most states within the US, including my state of North Carolina. So if you partake in the leafy green, be legal, stay safe, and use responsibly. Not much melody news this week, but I do have one thing to say. Happy spring! Spring is officially here. That means warmer temperatures. That means getting out and doing yard work. And that means pulling out a new wardrobe. That means tank tops, shorts, t-shirts, radios, whatever the case may be. Hey, go to shopmelody.com. We got our spring sale going on right now. 30% off all products. Go to shopmelody.com/store. Find what you want to order. And at checkout, type in that code, SPRINGSALE24, to get 30% off. What's up, Melody family? I'm your host, James Shelton. You know me. Alright, so I'm doing a future episode about new artists, up-and-coming artists, new bands. If you're that someone that has a new band, or you're just getting into the market, or I should say field of music, I want to hear from you. Go to shopmelody.com, fill out the contact form, add a file of your music or a video of you talking about your music, whatever the case may be. Just send it to me. Or you can send it at js@shopmelody.com. Send it through your email. I'm looking for new artists, new band members, new bands that want to be featured on a future episode. If that's you, contact me. Thank you for listening to the Melody Podcast. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider liking us on our social media channels. We have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok. Most of the usernames are the Melody Pod. Go follow, subscribe, like, all that good stuff. Go to shopmelody.com, subscribe to our newsletter, become a free member. It's free. I promise you, it's free. All you gotta do is sign up, and you can post with your friends, get your friends to sign up. You can post about music, post in the forums, you can tag each other. It's just like Facebook, just for music. That was the whole point of making shopmelody.com, was to make an online music community where people could post music freely and not have to worry about copyright problems like you would with Facebook or Twitter. It's completely free. All you have to do is sign up. And while you're there, you can listen to the podcast. You can get a podcast shirt. There's plenty of things you can do. And there's always more that I'm working on trying to get on the website. There will be games coming soon, musical games. I'm working on that right now. We don't have that. But in the future, there will be. But right now, you just need to sign up. And I promise you, there is more goodies for the website to come. So go do it. I hope you all enjoyed this podcast. I really enjoy making this podcast, and I enjoy talking about music. I say this about every episode, but I don't feel like you know what I'm talking about. Music is a lot to me. It's a passionate hobby that I have. If you talk to anybody that I know, they will tell you that I play music all day, every day. Music is always on, whether it's on my phone, on the TV, on the computer, playing on the Xbox. There's music somewhere, and especially in my car. When I worked for my previous job, I was always on the road. So my Spotify stayed on from the time I got into the car at 5 a.m. in the morning to the time I got home, probably about anywhere from 3 to 6 p.m. That's almost 12 hours of music just constantly playing. Whether it was in the background or not, it was playing. So music means a lot to me, and I enjoy doing this podcast. And I just want you guys to know that. And I enjoy you guys listening to me. Thank you all again. I'll see you guys next week.